What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And it's okay if you can't see the writing on the screen, right? Which you probably can't unless you're like watching this on the TV or something. I will explain and read to you why this is relevant. I got some other stuff to show you as well. But as a lot of you guys know, there was a riot, melee, right? Not necessarily a riot, but there was bloodshed. August 1st in Ely State Prison in Nevada. See, I'm going to pronounce it the right way this time. Uh, and I brought you that video, right, and explained to you what happened, why it happened, what had happened in the streets of Las Vegas that kind of led up to this bloodshed in Ely. And now there's more details, and some of the stuff just boggles the mind, man, boggles the mind. And so, first, the specifics around the incident, right? So every white dude on that tier was blasted in less than 30 seconds on that morning, right? So it was a quick and highly efficient attack. Again, my condolences to everybody that was injured or lost their lives in that, their loved ones. I explained that in the last video, so I'm not going to repeat stuff in this one very much, but that sentiment still, remains the same towards everybody, right? Southsiders, Woods, whoever, it doesn't matter in my book. But it mattered that day, right? And so 3 AWs lost their life. There was a total of 6 Southsiders that went to the hospital. So if you do the math, right, I believe they said 12 people went to outside hospitals, and so that would mean half the people were Southsiders. I think all of them are expected to make a full recovery. I think the rest of the white guys are also expected to make a recovery, but that would mean there was 3 Woods hit along with the 3 who died. And one of the individuals hit, because he was on the tier, is this guy that you see, Eric Janisch, right? So how does he factor into this, right? Well, and first, before I get into him and what he's being charged with now and just kind of the craziness of that, there is an alternative narrative that's being put out there, right, in terms of why this happened. And just to be clear, I know there's some questions in the comments on the last video. These are the Southsiders that fall up under California politics, if you will, right? Kind of the easy way to put it, which is the majority of Southsiders in the prison system in Nevada, right? But they've had the Nevada gangsters, and they've had other stuff, and maybe I'll do another video about that in the future. But just to clarify, right, these are those Southsiders, and they had a couple dudes from a neighborhood in Las Vegas that did time in the feds. They wound up getting pulled, into the Mexican Mafia. And so obviously they're now pushing that line, right? And so the woman that I mentioned that was at the house in Vegas when that incident happened between Rebelwood and I believe his name is Victor, that woman is actually the baby's mama of one of those guys who went to the feds and got pulled, right? And so that adds another layer to this, of course. And so there's an alternate theory now, though, right, that's being put out there that I don't think actually makes a lot of sense, but I'll share what it is. So in October in High Desert Prison in Nevada, we got a High Desert in California too, but at High Desert Prison in Nevada, in October, there was an AW member, right, an Aryan Warrior member who owed a debt to the Southsiders, and it rose to the point where they blasted him. Okay, they blasted him. It did not become a gang issue. It did not become anything more than that, right? And it was looked at like blood spray, debt paid type thing, right? And that was the understanding, right? And so there was no follow up. There's no retaliation. There was no nothing. There was an AW leader, right? One of their shot callers was on that yard in High Desert. There was also a lot of Southsiders and hitters for them on that yard. And there's been no dust up. There's been no conflict. There's been nothing else since October until this incident in Ely, right? Which is an entirely different prison, and in which they targeted the head of the AWs. But they had a factor for the AWs on that yard in High Desert that went untouched. So now there's a narrative that's actually why this happened in Ely, right? This is an extension from the Southsiders on this dude from the A-dubs who didn't pay his debt and got blasted for it. Again, that doesn't really make any sense to me because this was a highly aggressive move in Ely, right? Like you're trying to cut the head off the snake with people that had nothing to do with that debt. The person who did owe the debt was already hit. There were other people from his group on that yard that have been there that they weren't touched. This isn't something that kicked off there. It kicked off damn near a year later in an entirely different prison. So I think it's nonsense. I think it's BS. I think it's folks are trying to cover their tracks because it's some bad publicity, right? What happened, and so that's what I think. But nonetheless, that is a narrative, and I'm not picking sides here. This is not my politics whatsoever, from any direction. So I'm just giving to you how I hear it. But so this guy Eric, right? Eric Janisch. What does he have to do with this? It's just crazy. So Eric was sentenced under the habitual offender law, right? To I think between 5 and 12 years, right? He got a boatload of time. And he has a record, right? Obviously. Here we go. Now I can do this. Like I said, he's about 50 years old, right? 5'9", 175 pounds. Not a big dude. Right now, apparently, he's at High Desert State Prison, but he definitely was at Ely when this happened. And he was cellies with the kid, right? With the youngster, Connor, right? Little Sin, Devil. I'm hearing different names that are all kind of related. I'm not sure exactly which is which, but the prospect that lost his life. So when Connor comes out of the cell, he gets blasted. Like I said, every white dude on the tier was hit in less than 30 seconds, right? So he gets hit, and he gets hit bad. And the Southsiders that are doing the hitting, they got their food trays kind of strapped to their body, which I don't know how they do chow there. And kind of how, like in California, you wouldn't be able to come out of your cell with a food tray strapped to you because they come and get those trays, right? It's not uncommon to get fed in the cell, especially if you're on lockdown. I've known people that have done years in prison and never been to a chow hall, right? But they come and pick those trays up before they let anybody out for any kind of movement. So I guess that's not really how it happens in Ely, but nonetheless, They come out, they handle their business, right? They do what they were supposed to do. And the kid Connor gets stabbed. So Janisch is not affiliated, right? He's a white guy. He's a convict. He's been around. He's done a bunch of time. But he's not an AW. He's not an affiliate. He's not a prospect. He's a 50-year-old man in prison, right? That was getting ready to come home soon, and notice that I say was because some things have changed. So he grabs his cellie, right? Because it's, for those that haven't been in prison, your cellie is your cellie, man. That's your dude, right? Even if you don't really care for him, it doesn't matter, right? That's your house, essentially. That's your roommate, and you rock with your cellie. Now, if there's politics that get involved and you guys are from the same group and your cellie got to go, that's a different story, right? But towards any outside aggressor, especially another group segment or whatever, it doesn't matter. You're tipped up. They're not tipped up. They're tipped up. You're not, none of that matters, man. That's your cellie. You rock with your cellie. You don't let nobody hurt your cellie, and you just stand there and watch. And so he grabbed his cellie and tried to pull him back in the cell, right? And he's doing chest compressions and mouth to mouth, like because this kid Connor was hit bad. Obviously, he ultimately lost his life. So as he's trying to save him and he pulled him in, he gets blasted, right? He gets stabbed 4 times in the back and in the side. And they stabbed him good. Stabbed him good enough that he was one of the people that was life flighted to Vegas from Ely, right, to the hospital. So he didn't just get scratched. He's lucky he survived. And to be honest, he was probably going to be hit anyway, right? Because all the woods right there that came out were hit, So, and I explained in the last video how they do the cell releases and these 5 cells and those 5 cells and stuff. So, you can refer back to that if you're catching this and didn't see that video. There's more that's explained in that first one, and I'll link to it, at the end of this one. But so he gets blasted, right? And the SEALs rush. They respond. he's pulling a knife out of his side, a knife that was put in him by somebody else, right? He's pulling his knife out. The CO see that. Bam. He is now being told that he's being charged with the homicide of his cellie. Now, Janisch didn't blast nobody. He didn't, he's being charged with the homicide of his cellie because the COs say, hey, man, we see a dude laying here with holes in him, and we see a dude with a knife. Never mind the fact that dude with the knife just pulled it out of his own body, and he also has very serious holes in him, and he was stabbed in the back and the side, and they know that this is a gang fight. The media came out right away. The Nevada Department of Corrections said, oh, man, it's gang-related. So, multiple bodies all over the place at this point, right? They know that he didn't kill his cellie. But they're charging him with it. And as somebody who follows the law pretty closely, I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be one. I understand the whole natural probable consequences thing and the felony murder rule, which is going away in a lot of places because it's a corrupt way of prosecuting cases. But even under all those theories and all that stuff, this doesn't make any sense, right? That this is wild. And Ely has been a violent place. I actually saw a published report, a news report, where according to the Nevada Department of Corrections, 22 people have lost their lives for various reasons under various causes, natural and otherwise, in Ely just prior to this incident. So that's not counting the 3 people that lost their life on August 1st. That's a lot of people to die in one prison in 1 year, That's a lot. And it's not a medical facility, right? Like Vacaville in California and the Stockton Hospital thing, they probably lose 20 plus people a year easy. But they have all the sick folks and cancer patients and AIDS and elderly and all that stuff. That's not how Ely is set up. It's not a medical facility. It's just a high security joint. So they've been having shit cracking up there. And the Nevada Department of Corrections is notoriously corrupt, right? And that's where I think this falls in with Janisch. So this is just his, oh shoot, I just lost lights. This is just his background, right? Like I said, he was convicted under the habitual offender law. You can't see this. So let me drag it down a little bit. He just went to board in June. He was 7 months to the house when he got stabbed. He went to board. He was given a release date. He was getting ready to go home after many years, right? So why is that relevant though? Because, trip off this. Boom. Let's take this away. Let's put this up. Aha. He had sued the get your words together, Joshua. He had sued the Nevada Department of Corrections. And I'll post this on my Patreon. I got to pay for this paperwork sometimes. Let me see if I turn the light back on. There we go. My bad. I should go edit this stuff out, but I'm trying to get the video out to you guys in the morning. He sued the Nevada Department of Corrections, a civil rights complaint. And he was in Ely at the time, right? You see that? And this was filed June of 2024. So he went to board. He got a release date. He also filed this. I'm guessing he put this together prior to getting his release date. But he has a pending civil rights complaint against several COs for his time in Southern Desert Correctional Center, which is another prison in Nevada, in which basically they whooped his ass, right? According to him. These COs all smashed him, and he writes out his claim here, and he's saying that nurses violated his rights because they watched him get beat up. He describes the process of being thrown up against the window and twisted up and knee and hands and feet put on him. And he says all of this happened in June of 2023, so a year prior. But in order to file a claim like this, you have to go through, I'm sure it's the same in Nevada as in California, you have to exhaust your internal remedies. So you got to file your complaints within the Department of Corrections and go through the multiple review levels and get denied for that whole administrative internal process before you can then file to the courts outside of the prison. And that takes time, right? And that's probably why he was in Ely. I'm guessing that he ended up being sent to Ely because he was pushing this issue on the CO smashing on him and then him not getting adequate medical care. And apparently this happened on numerous occasions. And according to his complaint, there was pictures, there was camera angles that COs tried to block, but he believes that there will still be some relevant, footage of that. And so, yeah, the dude's getting ready to go home. He has a civil rights complaint against correctional officers for smashing on him. Mind you, I have another story coming up probably before the end of the week or this weekend about a family who just got $1 million because their son was killed in the Department of Corrections, Nevada Department of Corrections, back in 2018. And they sued because of the negligence of staff and all kinds of stuff. So I'll be covering that as well. It's prison. Bad things happen in prison, and it's not always convict versus convict, And so he sued, and I think that all this is related, right? He gets sent to Ely because he had the nerve to sue the Department of Corrections. While he's there, he gets blasted just over some gang/race stuff, right? It's just unfortunately, wrong place, wrong time. But then they turn around and charge him with the murder. That's just wild, man. Just wild. And as it looks, it doesn't look like he's gonna be going home when Board had said that he was going home. So like I said, I'll post this on my Patreon if you guys want to read his action. And then I'll put a link. Actually, you just look his name up, but I'll put a link to his Nevada Department of Corrections profile so you can see his criminal history and stuff. But he's not a gang member, man. He's got some car thefts. He has one assault with a deadly weapon many, many years ago. But even if he was, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't make what's happening to him right. But he just doesn't have the background to make this make sense. Except for he had the nerve to challenge the Nevada Department of Corrections. So, like I said, man, there you have it. 6 Southsiders out of the 12 people that went to the hospital, 6 of them were Southsiders. There was 3 whites that lost their life and 3 whites that got, wounded. But it's expected that the rest of those folks are going to survive. And it all happened in the blink of an eye, man. 30 seconds can radically change your life. And not just your life, but the lives of your family out there. Because even those that did the assault, right? I'm sure to some degree, a lot of the folks just do what they're told. That's what politics is like in prison, right? It's not personal, it's business. You get told to go this way and do that, then you go that way and you do that, right? And if you don't, it's still going to happen. It's just now it's your head on the chopping block. But those folks all have families, right? A lot of them, I'm assuming, have families and loved ones in the streets that didn't sign up for the lifestyle that they signed up for. And now there's people that are going to be in prison longer, and there's people that prison conditions are going to be worse. And then ultimately there's some people that are, they're never coming home again because they lost their life in prison. And that Prospect kid kind of hits me, man, because he was young. He was young, and in talking to some people that knew him, he never had a chance in life. He grew up in a system, crashed out in Reno, and lost his life. And his cellie just tried to save him, man, and almost lost his life in the process. And now potentially he's going to lose the rest of his, freedom for it. So help others move to excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it. Help your community because they need you. I'll have links in the description. And I'm going to wind up doing another video, man, on this kind of Southsider divide that exists in Nevada, both in the streets and in prison. And I wonder if that's going to play into the restructuring of the power players as these yards start to open up. I'm hearing that in one prison, they're supposed to be coming off lockdown soon. Everybody's still locked down. They've been locked down, all month, in terms of the whites and the Southsiders. But that's going to change. They should be coming out soon. And anybody's guess what'll happen, man. But stay tuned. You guys know I'll give you the updates as I get them and as I think it's appropriate. So anyways, yeah, I appreciate you. Take care.